Ma'am, excuse me, what are your thoughts for your American friends today?
I don't have enough words. It's very grateful.
A duchess, a disgraced financier, and a £15,000 lifeline. What drove Sarah Ferguson, the Duchess of York, into Jeffrey Epstein's shadow? For years, her story was one of glittering parties, royal titles, and scandalous headlines. But behind palace walls, there was another reality, one built on mounting debt, public humiliation, and desperate choices. So when Epstein, the man whose name would later become synonymous with deceit and exploitation, entered her world, the question wasn't how it happened, but why. Was it friendship, manipulation, or a quiet transaction between two people who both knew the price of influence? Today, we're peeling back the curtain on one of the most controversial chapters in royal history, a story of privilege, power, and the dangerous allure of financial salvation. But to understand why Sarah Ferguson took that £15,000 lifeline, we first need to look at what pushed her there in the first place. When Sarah Ferguson married Prince Andrew in 1986, she seemed to have stepped into a fairy tale. The sparkling tiaras, the royal tours, the global fascination. But fairy tales don't mention the bills that come after the ball. After her divorce from Prince Andrew in 1996, Ferguson kept the title Duchess of York, but lost the royal paycheck that came with it. What she didn't lose was the lifestyle, the designer clothes, the transatlantic flights, the luxury homes. Soon the numbers stopped adding up. By the early 2000s, tabloids were calling her the Duchess of Debt. Reports surfaced of hundreds of thousands, even millions, in unpaid bills. She tried to reinvent herself in America, writing children's books, endorsing brands like Weight Watchers, and launching wellness ventures. Some paid off, but most fizzled. Behind the scenes, Ferguson was hustling to stay afloat, attending US talk shows, signing appearances, and chasing business ideas that rarely turned a profit. Each attempt felt like a patch over a much deeper financial wound. And every time she thought she'd found a way out, another debt surfaced, another business deal crumbled, another headline reminded the world that the Duchess couldn't pay her dues. To the public, she was royalty in name, but privately, she was a woman drowning in financial quicksand, clinging to any lifeline that might keep her afloat. And one of those lifelines was about to come from a man whose fortune and reputation would shake the world. Jeffrey Epstein wasn't just another wealthy socialite. He was a man whose fortune bought him access to the world's most powerful circles. From Wall Street magnates to royals and presidents, Epstein moved through elite networks with a mix of charm, secrecy, and influence. It was through Prince Andrew that Sarah Ferguson met Epstein. At first, their paths crossed at social gatherings, charity events, and high-profile dinners, the kind of places where introductions could change a person's fortunes. But for Ferguson, this connection would go beyond polite conversation. In 2010, a story broke that stunned even her harshest critics. Epstein had given Sarah Ferguson £15,000 to help pay off one of her mounting debts. The payment, reportedly arranged through one of Epstein's assistants, was meant to settle an outstanding account with her former personal assistant. When the truth surfaced, Ferguson's response was immediate and emotional. She admitted the payment had happened, calling it a gigantic error of judgment, and saying she was deeply regretful. She claimed she'd repay every penny, insisting she'd made the decision during a desperate time. But this wasn't a random act of generosity. Epstein had already built his reputation for offering help to those in trouble, the kind of help that came with invisible strings attached. His wealth gave him power, and his favors often came with unspoken expectations. At the time, few knew the full extent of Epstein's dark dealings. He was still seen by many in elite circles as eccentric, perhaps even misunderstood, not yet the global pariah he would become years later. For someone like Sarah Ferguson, surrounded by debt and scandal fatigue, his offer might have seemed like a lifeline. But what started as a £15,000 favor would soon spiral into something much bigger, a web of influence that would draw in far more than one duchess in distress.
Jeffrey Epstein wasn't just a financier, he was a gatekeeper. His power didn't come from a royal title or public office, but from something far more seductive: access. To those who needed a favor, a connection, or a discreet solution, Epstein appeared to have endless resources and impeccable timing. He wasn't simply rich, he was useful. Through Prince Andrew, Epstein's reach extended directly into the royal family. He attended parties at royal estates, mingled with diplomats, models, and business moguls. Photos of Epstein walking beside the Duke of York weren't just social snapshots, they were signals of proximity to power. And that power was currency. Those in Epstein's orbit often found themselves indebted, not always financially, but socially. In elite circles, introductions and opportunities are traded like gold. Epstein mastered that trade. For Sarah Ferguson, whose public reputation had been battered by debt scandals and tabloid mockery, Epstein's offer of help may have seemed like redemption, a chance to silence the headlines, to rebuild, to regain control of her image. But as later revelations showed, Epstein's generosity wasn't isolated. His web stretched across continents, politicians, scientists, princes, each entangled in their own quiet transactions. The question was never just why he helped, but what he gained from helping. And within that question lies the heart of the scandal. Was Sarah Ferguson another pawn in Epstein's long game of influence, or a willing participant in a network that thrived on secrecy and favors? The answer isn't simple, because behind the glamour and money was something far more human: desperation. And that's where her story takes a darker, more personal turn.
For Sarah Ferguson, debt wasn't just a number, it was a shadow that followed her everywhere. Every headline about her finances, every leaked story about another unpaid bill, chipped away at her dignity. Once the fun-loving Duchess, she had become the royal cautionary tale, the outsider who couldn't manage her money or her image. After her divorce, Ferguson's world shifted overnight. The protection of royal life was gone, replaced by a relentless need to survive in the same media circus that once celebrated her. She was expected to maintain the image of a duchess, but without the resources that title once guaranteed. Every smile for the cameras came with pressure to look successful, to appear secure, to seem like she still belonged among Britain's elite. In private, she was exhausted. The business ventures that promised independence often collapsed under their own ambition. Her friendships in high society began to blur the line between support and opportunity. And when someone like Epstein, polished, persuasive, and rich beyond reason, offered help, it must have felt like a small mercy. To outsiders, it's easy to see the £15,000 payment as a choice, but to someone drowning in public humiliation and private chaos, it might have felt like the only way to breathe again.
Ferguson herself would later say that accepting Epstein's money was one of the worst mistakes of her life, a decision not made out of greed, but out of fear. The fear of losing control, the fear of falling further, the fear of becoming irrelevant in a world that feeds on relevance. In her mind, it wasn't about trust, it was about survival. But that survival came with a cost she couldn't have imagined. Because when her connection to Epstein surfaced, the world didn't see desperation, it saw betrayal. And the backlash would be swift, public, and devastating. When the story broke, it hit like a bombshell. Headlines screamed, "Duchess takes money from Epstein." Overnight, Sarah Ferguson's name was back on every front page, but for all the wrong reasons. The public couldn't believe it. A member of the royal family, even if only by title, accepting money from a man already clouded by suspicion and scandal. It sounded unthinkable, and yet the proof was undeniable. Epstein had wired £15,000 to help clear one of her personal debts. Within hours, the palace was in damage control mode. Ferguson issued a public apology, calling the payment a gigantic error of judgment. She vowed to repay the money and said she deeply regretted ever dealing with Epstein. But the apology only fanned the flames, because for many, it wasn't just about the money, it was about judgment. The tabloids had a field day. They resurrected every past scandal, every misstep, every hint of desperation. "The Duchess who never learned," one headline read. Others questioned whether she'd been complicit in Epstein's schemes, or simply naive enough to trust the wrong people. And then came the resurfaced emails. Years later, private correspondence showed Ferguson calling Epstein a steadfast, generous, and supreme friend. The tone was warm, even affectionate, a sharp contrast to her later attempts to distance herself. It was proof, critics said, that her relationship with Epstein went deeper than she'd ever admitted. Charities began quietly removing her as patron. Invitations stopped coming. Even her ex-husband, Prince Andrew, whose own ties to Epstein would soon erupt into their own scandal, was advised to lay low. The Duchess of York, once known for her optimism and resilience, was now branded as reckless, tainted by association. When stories like this unfold, it's easy to point fingers, to call someone foolish, greedy, or corrupt. But the truth is rarely that simple. Sarah Ferguson's entanglement with Jeffrey Epstein isn't just a scandal, it's a mirror, reflecting how power, privilege, and desperation can collide in ways that destroy judgment. In the royal world, appearances are everything. The pressure to maintain grace, status, and wealth can twist even the strongest wills. When the walls start to close in, when the money runs out, and the cameras never stop, moral lines begin to blur. A favor here, a payment there, and suddenly the boundary between survival and surrender disappears. Ferguson's story reminds us that wealth doesn't guarantee freedom. In some ways, it can be its own prison, a gilded cage where people make quiet compromises to protect the illusion of control. Epstein understood that better than anyone. His wealth wasn't just financial, it was psychological. He offered salvation to the desperate, and in return, bought loyalty that lasted long after the checks cleared. So, was Sarah Ferguson a victim? Maybe. Was she also responsible for her choices? Absolutely. Her desperation made her human. Her decisions made her fallible.
In the end, the story of Sarah Ferguson and Jeffrey Epstein isn't just about scandal, it's about the hidden price of survival in a world built on appearances. From royal palaces to Manhattan penthouses, the same truth echoes. Influence can be intoxicating, and desperation can make even the proudest reach for help they know they shouldn't take. The Duchess of York wasn't the first to fall into that trap, and she won't be the last. That £15,000 lifeline wasn't simply a transaction, it was a symbol. A reminder that in the struggle to maintain power, image, or dignity, people can make choices that haunt them for decades. But maybe what makes this story truly unsettling isn't the mistake itself, it's how familiar it feels. How easily anyone could justify one bad decision when backed into a corner. Sarah Ferguson's journey is a story of resilience, regret, and reputation, a warning of what happens when privilege meets pressure and morality meets money. So, was she a victim of circumstance or of her own decisions? You decide. If you found this story revealing, subscribe for more investigations into the hidden lives behind royal headlines, where the truth is often stranger and far more human than the fairy tales ever told.